Why can't I get my managers to recruit? Well, that's the question of the day today here on The Philip Gagnon Show.
This is the #1 podcast for real estate brokers and leaders. You're listening to The Philip Gagnon Show.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Philip Gagnon Show. I'm your host, as always, Philip Gagnon. Today we're going to be revisiting a conversation that I had a few weeks ago with the president of ERA Europe and ERA France, Francois Gagnon, who's also my dad. In a prior conversation, we talked about recruiting against different types of models and how to do so effectively. So in case you missed that episode, I'll give you a quick kind of overview as to what is going on with ERA in Europe. They are present in 18 countries. They've got 1,100 offices and over 6,000 agents across the continent. So they've got a big footprint, a lot of different models, a lot of different things. One of the challenges that comes up for them, which is the same thing that I see here in working with brokers in the US, is the struggle with managers and recruiting. A lot of times the managers don't want to, or they're not very good at it, or it creates problems or whatever. So I've asked him that very direct same question. So let's just go ahead and jump right in and continue that conversation. So as a broker owner, you're obviously recruiting all the time. Everything is recruiting. Staff, you're recruiting agents, everything is recruiting. Managers, employees of the company don't necessarily have that same vested interest that the broker owner has. And I know that's a source of frustration for a lot of brokers, is that they can't get their managers to recruit. So why is that, and what can be done to fix it?
Why do managers not recruit? That's a good question. I think that's perhaps because you got the wrong people. And I think the wrong people would be one of two extremes. I think you've got managers that are way too administrative. And as a result, so here, let me get a definition of selling. A definition of selling is the transfer of emotion. So if I'm excited about something and I can transfer that emotion to you, basically I'm selling you on the idea. Like this is great and you're going to love it and look how wonderful it is and it's got this and it's got that. And you go, oh yeah, you're getting me all excited. You're talking to a friend who describes a movie to you. Oh, this movie, I saw the movie. You know what they did, and at the beginning and the end and the effects and this, and it was in 3D with the IMAX theater screen, yada, yada, and you're all excited. So what they've done is they've motivated you. They sold you on going to see it because they've transferred the emotions to you. So you got part of the managers that are way too administrative. They need to be working with the IRS. Okay, they should not be
more
involved.
Transfer of emotion.
Yeah, what's that?
More transfer of emotion.
Yeah, because they've got no transfer of emotion whatsoever. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, you've got the super salesman who goes into real estate, and then he's selling everybody on going into real estate. The problem is that because of the way he's doing it and not taking enough time to really understand whether the people want this or not, and really digging down to see if they're willing to pay the price, as we talked about earlier, then you find yourself in a situation where they end up leaving in 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever the case is. Yeah, you sold them all right, but now they're gone. And you sold them because they joined for your reasons, not for theirs. Because it wasn't clear that the reason that they were doing this was that they were trying to get to their destination, but using your vehicle. So your vehicle is the opportunity you're providing me in the real estate industry, and my destination was where I want to end up. When you've got a guy who's selling too hard, he's selling you on his destination and not yours. So you're going to go in and you're get in there, and then when you figure out all the stuff you got to do, but you're getting to his destination, you're not interested. You don't want to do that. You want to go to yours. You don't want to go to his. So then you get demotivated, you get discouraged, and you quit. So you gotta have somebody who's got a happy middle ground someplace, so that he's not overselling you, but at the same time he's not discouraging you either. Somebody who's going to be somewhat realistic, but at the same time provide and offer the opportunity. And probably the biggest problem that occurs is I see brokers who may or may not be good at recruiting. I'm not, depends. Some of them would like to think they are, but they're really not. But regardless, find somebody who's really good at recruiting. And if you hire a manager that you think is competent and wants to do it and is open-minded to do it, have him sit down and see somebody else doing it. Have him sit down and watch somebody go through the recruiting process. Somebody that you consider is doing a good job at recruiting, and a good job at questioning the person, and a good job at presenting the opportunity, and a good job at getting feedback from that person to see if they liked it or not, or they thought it was important or helpful or not. Because then they can go back and try to mirror that behavior or mirror the situation, as opposed to just going back in and trying to make stuff up on their own, not being quite sure exactly what they should do. It's the same thing that happens with salespeople. Tell salespeople, go out there and get a listing. Okay, so you went to a training class, now go get a listing. Go. Did you get a listing? So then they do the thing. They come back and they sell the broker.
Sell you on why they didn't
get the listing. Exactly. Because that's easy. That's justification, and that's an easy sell. I don't have to go do a lot of training for that. So I think, when you look at the things that a person has to do in order to be successful, and in order to be able to change and modify the behavior, there's really, if we had to break it down, there's really specific things that need to be done. And if you do those specific things, then at that point, you're going to find yourself in a situation where the person will be able to do it, and will be able to do it on purpose. Because they'll know why they're doing it, they'll understand what they need to do, and there's not going to be a justification. And so, whenever I see salespeople who go on an appointment, because I'm in offices all the time, whether it be in France, or whether it be in Germany or in Austria or in Switzerland or in Sweden or in Portugal or wherever, in Istanbul, Turkey, and I'm in an office and the salesperson says, "Oh, hello, how are you? Nice to see you, Mr. Guy." I say, "Oh, where were you?" They say, "Oh, I was at a listing appointment." "Oh, did you get the listing?" Okay. Sometimes they'll say yes, and sometimes they say no. In either case, I always ask why. Why did you get the listing? And their answer will tell me who I'm talking to. And so here's what I'm talking about. Why did you get the listing? "Oh, we just worked it out." You've got a percentage of the population that's out there in the world. It's maybe, I don't know. I don't know the statistical analysis, but maybe 5% of the population that is going to be successful no matter what happens, because they've just got this thing. They don't even know what it is. Call it charisma, call it the energy, call it the force that is with them. Whatever you want to call it, they've got something that just means that they're going to get it. Right. And it's going to work. So, but that's 5% of the people. Now, the people that I say, "Why did you get it?" And they say, "Oh, I'll tell you why, because the owner said this and this, and then I responded this, and I showed them this." Well, that's somebody who's being successful on purpose. On the other hand, when I say, "Why didn't you get it?" I got salespeople who say to me, "Oh, well, the seller didn't want to." What does that mean? He didn't want to. He didn't want to what? He didn't want to sell. He doesn't want the buyer's money. He doesn't want to work with you. He didn't want you. He didn't want to pay your commission. What? He didn't want to. What does that mean? He didn't want to. He wasn't into it. Or they come back with then a justification. "Oh, I don't want those crap listings. If it's a question of taking crap listings, I'm not interested." Well, then you're just justifying your life away here, which you can do fine. I don't care. It's not a problem. But at the end of the year, it's you that didn't make the money and nobody else. So a justification is not really a very smart thing to be looking for. And what you need to be looking for is to say, okay, let's put aside the pride. Because that's what it comes down to. It's a problem of pride, that I don't want to look bad. I don't want to sound bad. I don't want people to think badly of me. I don't want people to think I'm stupid. I don't want people to think I'm incompetent because of, quote, my pride. You got to get rid of the pride. I mean, pride is absolutely the hugest, biggest problem, because the only way you learn is by screwing up, by falling down, by making a mistake, by scraping your knees. And the only way you're going to do that is if you put your pride in the back seat and then you go forward and you bang your head against the wall. And if you bang your head against the wall and you make mistakes, then you're going to learn. But if you refuse the possibility of banging your head against the wall because you don't want to look bad, well, then you're never going to learn. And then if you don't learn because you're too proud to look bad, well, then good luck to you. I don't know what, I help you, because you're never going to figure it out. It's never going to happen. So I remember, so I'll tell you a funny story. I remember years ago, we were in France and we had the ERA listing presentation manual, which is the ERA flip chart that we use to teach an agent how to go about getting listings. So I go to one of the first meetings that we did. There's 20 brokers that are sitting there, 20 French brokers. And they're all sitting there with their arms crossed.
And this didn't exist at the time.
And this
nobody had a listing
nobody
presentation.
Had presentation. Nobody flip chart. This was 25 years ago. And the 20 of them are sitting around the table looking at me, and I start the presentation. This is supposed to be an all-day training on using the flip chart. And so the meeting starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I start going into my spiel, and I'm showing them the presentation and what it is and how it works and what it does. And like about 10 o'clock, Nobody's taking notes. Everybody's sitting there with their arms crossed.
Smoking a cigarette and having a glass of wine.
Not quite. It wasn't that much fun. I wish it would have been, but it wasn't. They're just sitting there with their arms crossed. They're looking at me. And then all of a sudden at 10 o'clock, it's like somebody gave the signal. One of them puts his hand up and he says, "Oh, Monsieur Gagnon, can I ask you a question?" So obviously this was in French because they didn't speak English. And I said, "Yeah, of course. What's the question?" He goes, "Oh, Monsieur Gagnon, how many listings have you taken using this tool?" And I said, in the United States, I've been working in real estate. And he goes, No, Monsieur Gagnon, how many have you taken here using this tool? And I said, this method works around the world. He goes, no, please, Mr. Gagnon, please, just answer my question. How many listings have you taken with this tool here in France? And so this was, a very long 30 seconds, felt like 3 weeks. And I said the truth. And I said, well, I haven't taken any. And as I'm about to go with my friend, he goes, no, stop, Mr. Gagnon. So what you're telling me is that you would like us to do something that you yourself have never done and don't even know it works. Do I understand correctly? And I said, well, it's a nationwide, international, intergalactic network, worldwide. No.
This is human nature. This is the way people are.
No, Mr. Gagnon. Do I understand correctly that you want us to do something you have never done yourself here? And I said, well, yeah, I guess if you put it that way, I guess so. He goes, okay, so why don't we do this? And this is what he says. He goes, why don't we do this? Why don't you go ahead and take some listings, and after you have, come back and tell us. Until then, I don't think we have anything to talk about. And then they went to have the glass of wine and the cigarette, and that was the end of the meeting.
And there's the whole room.
And that was the whole room. The 20 of them got up and left. It was 10:15. This was supposed to go on until 4 o'clock. Started at 9, 10:15, everybody's gone. Said, oh no, what a freaking disaster. What a nightmare. I was shocked. So I called one of the brokers that we had in Versailles at the time. And I said, listen, I need your help. There's only one thing to do here. There's not 12. There's one thing to do. I need you to get your salespeople to get appointments.
I need to go on some appointments.
And I need to go
Give
with
me some
them.
leads.
Get them to make appointments. And I need to go with the flip chart to get listings. And then he was like shocked. He says, you want to do this? He says, what are you talking about? You're the director of the network. I said, I need to do this. I got to go. I need to do it. So he says, okay, that's great. So I was in his office at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, and we had the first appointment on Monday, and I think we had a couple on Tuesday. End of story. At the end of the week, I had gone on 5 different listing appointments with 5 different salespeople, and using the flip chart, I got 3 exclusive listing appointments that week.
3 exclusive listings, which is a big deal.
Which is a huge deal because nobody gave exclusive listings.
Right.
So out of 5 appointments, I got 3 exclusive listings. And so I then called the brokers back that had been at the training session. And I said, how many exclusive listings did you take last week? And they said, oh, exclusive listings. C'est pas possible. Oh non, ça ne se fait pas. C'est pas possible. So I said, oh, well, guess what? I went on 5 appointments and I got 3 exclusive listings last week. And I went, oh, wow, how did you do that? What happened? I said, well, if you'd like to know how to do it, come to the training class and I'll show you how to do it. And then we scheduled the training class, and they came, and this time they took notes, and they sat through the whole day, 2 days, and they left, and they were very happy with it. My point is that if you're not willing to put your feet in the fire and go all in, go all out to do it, then, I don't know how you're going to be able to pull it off. Now, after that, when people said to me, oh, but how many have you done? Then I just repeated the same story. I said, well, I don't know. I was in Versailles, and I went on 5 appointments for 3 listings. Now, if I can do it with my bad French in a market that I don't really know, with laws I don't really know, I know even less, how well do you think you should be able to do, knowing that you know the market, you are French, and you're knowledgeable? You should be able to do this, no problem. How come I can do it and you can't? So are you telling me that I'm smart and you're stupid? Is that what you're telling me? So if you're not, then learn the thing and go and do it. And I can show you how to do it. If you're willing to put in the work and do what needs to be done to get there. If you're not, then there's nothing to discuss. Then in that case, I'm a winner and you're not. But if you're willing to do it, then you can be a winner too. And so little by little, it started to spread, it started to grow, and that's exactly what happened. As more and more people did it and learned what they needed to do and how to do it, and then all of a sudden you wind up 20 years later and you got, or 25 years later, and you got 400 offices,
and everybody's doing it,
and the ones that are winning are doing it.
Well, that is our time for this week. I want to thank my guest Francois Gagnon again for being a part, and I want to thank you for taking the time to listen in. Be sure to like us on Facebook to check out past episodes and be notified when new ones come available, and we'll see you all next week.
This was the Philip Gagnon Show. Be sure to visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Philip Gagnon Show and join in on the conversation, access the show notes, and discover some fantastic bonus content. The Philip Gagnon Show.